Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Levenson, President and CEO of LL Global, LIMRA, and LOMA. Today, I look forward to sharing some important research that we recently completed in collaboration with NAILBA. I'd like to thank Dan Lebert and the NAILBA team for their partnership. We'll strive to build on this research in the months and years ahead. Let me start with a few details about the project. Our team surveyed 60 BGA and IMO firms and 210 life producers connected with these organizations. We also conducted in-person interviews to expand on the information we received. All information was collected in September, so results are very current. Roughly 80% of those surveyed identified as BGAs, with the balance describing themselves as IMOs. A diverse group of organizations participated. 20% were small, with less than $1 million in revenue, and 10% were large, with over $50 million in revenue. The majority of those surveyed, 45%, had between $1 million and $5 million in revenue. So let's get to the study. One of the first questions we asked sets the stage for where we will spend the majority of our time today. When asked about the top 3 business priorities, 77% of you mentioned growing your network of producers. About 2/3 of you are focused on increasing sales of your current offerings. 51% of you mentioned improving sales support and service for your producers, and 44% of you want to improve the technology solutions offered to producers. Today, I'm going to go a little deeper into each of these 4 areas. We'll also briefly touch upon your feedback related to revenue forecasts and the M&A landscape. Let's start with growing your producer network. When asked about the 3-year outlook on the size of your producer network, 57% of you said that you would increase the number of producers. 13% of you expected a decrease, and 30% of you said that you'd maintain the size of your network. Interestingly, for those who said you expected to grow, the median expected growth rate was 15%. And for the 13% of you that expected a decline, the median decline of producers was 18%. Over 80% of the firms surveyed said that they are looking for a different profile of producer because of the COVID-19 pandemic. When asked how the profile would change, almost all answers connected back to the capacity of producers to use technology with limited help and support from the firms. You are clearly looking for producers who are comfortable working with clients in a virtual environment. We also asked about your ability to attract producers under the age of 40 who have the potential to have long, successful relationships with your firm. You responded positively to that, with over 70% describing your efforts as very successful or moderately successful. In order to keep up with the growth that many of you are predicting, you will need more employees. This is becoming a real challenge for our industry across all roles, entry-level to executive. We asked, what are you finding as the most successful way to recruit your employees? The top answer by far is from your centers of influence or a nominator. These are people that you interact with every day, from your church to your neighborhood to your friends. 42% mentioned that source. 20% of you found job boards to be effective, and 15% of you had success with internal referrals. Let's move on to some product findings. We asked both BGAs and producers the same question: why place business with your top carrier? And found very different perspectives between the 2 groups. The top answer for firms at 72% was product pricing. Interestingly, this was only the 5th most important consideration for producers at your firms at 16%. The next most popular response from the firms was a faster and easier underwriting process. 46% of you mentioned that as a driver. At 30%, this was the fourth most popular answer for producers. Let's now look at it from the producer's perspective. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the top answer for producers as to why they place business with a carrier was around a competitive compensation plan. 43% of producers identified this as their top reason. That ranked fifth for the firms at 13%. Not far behind compensation, the second most important consideration for producers on who they use as carriers related to strong service. 38% of producers highlighted that. Interestingly, this was only mentioned by 16% of the firms, the fourth most popular answer for this group. We asked all of you about whether you added a new carrier to your firm in the last couple of years and what factors led to selecting that carrier or other carriers. In the last 2 years, 87% of you added at least one carrier. The top reason at 69% was to provide new products or features. That was followed by better service support, financial strength, and access to senior leadership of the carrier. The corollary to the last question was whether any of you stopped working with a carrier over the last couple of years. 57% of you did, and that decision was influenced largely by a product line that had become uncompetitive, followed by poor wholesaling support and a deterioration in financial strength of the carrier. As you think about your value proposition to attracting producers, 61% of you said that differentiation is becoming very challenging. 53% of producers agreed with that. The last question related to product was where you expected to see the greatest lift in sales over the next year. You highlighted a focus on planning, followed by products that focused on accumulation, and that was followed by products that were focused on protection. Perhaps surprising to me, all of you are sensing a decrease in products that provide lifetime guarantees, but that may be connected to aggressive cutbacks in supply as carriers are striving to manage capital more efficiently in this lower interest rate environment. I was also a little surprised about the expected increase in sales from legacy and estate planning type products. And while this is certainly an important part of each of your firms, we're all expecting some challenges there with tax law changes coming from the Biden administration. Let's turn to service and support. When looking at independent producers who do more than 20% of their business in life insurance sales, service and support is the leading reason why they place business with a specific BGA or IMO. That answer is almost twice as important as the second answer, the breadth of the products offered. We then asked each of you about what service from carriers was most important to you. Scores here are on a 5-point scale. The top answer at 4.38 was a dedicated underwriting team to support you. That followed by eApp, eSignature, eDelivery, the eSuite at 4.23. The third most popular answer was accelerated underwriting for amounts above $1 million. We certainly saw jumps in carriers moving to accelerated underwriting during the pandemic, but many still have limits below $1 million before they're ready to shift from their traditional underwriting. LIMRA will have a comprehensive study coming out in a few months about accelerated and automated underwriting. Please be on the lookout for that. I found this page interesting. The prior slide showed how important these services and support are to BGAs and IMOs. The question is whether you're getting these services from carriers today. And while your carriers provide all of these services, almost all of you were looking for more across the board. The fourth area of focus you referenced was around technology. 3/4 of you agree that you will need to invest more in technology in the future to remain competitive. Yet only 60% of you have made significant progress in technology enhancements over the past 18 months. The final technology question we asked related to effectiveness of different virtual communications. Most effective was your general communication with your producers, followed by virtual programs to train your producers. Unsurprisingly, virtual tools are not effective in entertaining producers and somewhat mixed in terms of recruiting new producers. Let's now pivot to revenue. This group is a very dominant life revenue group, with the median firm deriving 80% of revenue from life insurance. Annuity revenue followed at 8.5%, and disability insurance and long-term care followed with 5%. We then tried to zone in on revenue comparisons between the pandemic year of 2020 versus 2019. You all hung in there pretty well, with 43% getting considerably more or more revenue in 2020 versus 2019. And another 22% of you saying that your revenue was about the same. That was really good to see. What's even better to see is that 2021 looks like a much stronger year than 2020. 72% of you are expecting revenues to increase, with only 8% expecting a decrease. Of those expecting to increase revenue in 2021, 3/4 of you are expecting double-digit revenue gains, with 26% of you expecting revenue growth above 25%. That's exceptional. My last slides are about M&A, as we're seeing new players like PE firms enter all parts of the insurance value chain, from the carrier side to the technology side to the distribution side. You're all familiar with many of the larger BGA firms going through transactions over the last couple of years. This has certainly accelerated recently. When polled about the next 3 years, almost 72% of you felt that consolidation would continue. So that's a quick run through of our survey results. If you're interested in getting hard copies of these slides, please contact either NAILBA or LIMRA. And if you would like more details to some of the questions asked, please let us know at LIMRA. We will be publishing the full report results in another couple of months. Thank you for participating in the survey and for giving me the opportunity to share the results with all of you. Best wishes for a strong finish to 2021 and for a great start to 2022.